Let's break it down straight from the hill to your hometown. No spin, no hype, just facts we find. AI's on the case, no truth left behind. Laws are written, deals are made. Who's got your back, who's throwing shade? We cut through the noise, decode the text, keeping it real. Congress in context, Congress in context, shining the light, breaking it down so you know what's right. Policies, votes, who's working for you? We bring the facts, the power is you.
Welcome to Congress in Context, your direct line to the heart of Capitol Hill.
I like that direct line.
You've given us your highlights from the Congressional Record, and today's deep dive is all about making sense of it, unpacking the key debates, those crucial votes, and the really fascinating trends bubbling beneath the surface.
It's amazing how much actually happens in a single day. The Congressional Record is a treasure trove, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like a daily pulse check on what matters to the nation, and we're going to break it all down for you.
That was good.
And starting off, we noticed a lot of activity focused on individuals and their achievements. A real tapestry of local stories making their way into the national spotlight.
This is one of my favorite parts. Seeing those personal connections between Congress members and the people they represent.
It's almost like a celebration of community contributions, right?
Exactly. Those moments of local pride.
Let's take a look at a few. We have a Pennsylvania congressman who's giving a shout out to a local basketball player.
Yeah.
Instrumental in the University of Florida's Final Four run.
Hometown hero on a national stage.
Exactly. Makes you wonder how many future stars are out there right now.
Working their way up.
Absolutely. Then we head over to New York, where a representative is recognizing decades of service from a community member.
Dedication, that's what that is.
This individual is known for his work on a town calendar, highlighting local history year after year.
Preserving that local heritage, it's so important.
The kind of commitment that often goes unnoticed but really holds a community together.
The glue.
And still in New York, we have a tribute to a woman who's retiring.
Okay.
Leading a county partnership focused on economic growth.
24 years, that's a long time. Must have seen a lot of changes.
It's a real testament to her dedication, and it suggests a significant impact on the region's prosperity.
And that same representative also took the time to honor a former FBI agent.
Oh, that's right.
For his public service, which included time as a local mayor. It's fascinating how people contribute on so many different levels.
Absolutely, and that's a great reminder that public service takes many forms. Now, how about some sports?
I'm ready.
A Connecticut congressman is celebrating the UConn women's basketball team.
Another championship.
You guessed it, their 12th national title.
Talk about a dynasty.
He even mentions the standout talent of some specific players. It's amazing how these victories can rally a whole region.
Brings people together.
Then we have an Oklahoma congressman paying tribute to a former colleague.
Remembering those who served before.
Highlighting his long career and dedication to improving the lives of Oklahomans, particularly through economic policy.
That historical perspective is really valuable.
It is, and it shows how these legacies continue to shape policy today.
Exactly.
Over in California, a representative recognizes the retiring president of a state university.
Wow.
Almost half a century in higher education.
Talk about dedication to academia. That's incredible.
A lifetime dedicated to shaping young minds.
Absolutely.
And then we shift gears to Indiana, where we have not one, but two congressmen celebrating local high school basketball teams on their state championships.
Nothing like a good high school rivalry.
One team even overcame a defeat from the previous year.
That's the spirit.
It shows the power of perseverance and the important role these teams play in their communities.
Community spirit. I love it.
Now down to Florida, where a congressman is recognizing a Baptist college on its 50th anniversary.
50 years. That's a milestone.
A reminder of the diverse landscape of higher education in our country.
And the different values that these institutions represent.
Sticking with Florida, there's a lot of emphasis on the work happening at Kennedy Space Center.
Space exploration, always pushing the boundaries.
Particularly the Artemis II mission.
Right.
And it's being framed as crucial for America's leadership in space.
That's a big statement.
Even as a competition with China.
Makes you think about the global implications.
It certainly raises the stakes.
It does.
Now, we have a Georgia congressman celebrating the recognition of several islands as top beach towns.
Sounds nice.
He even gives a shout out to a local conservation area and a renowned southern restaurant.
Good food and beautiful beaches.
A focus on local tourism and those landmarks that make a region unique.
I'm ready for a vacation now.
Me too.
Yeah.
And we also have mentions of a golf victory, the impact of a university president in Washington State, another high school basketball championship, this time in Pennsylvania, and a moment to honor a fallen police officer.
That's a lot to take in.
It really is a mix of celebration, achievement, and solemn remembrance.
The full spectrum of life.
And that's reflected in the Congressional Record, wouldn't you say?
It is.
Now let's shift our focus to Colorado,
Okay.
where a congresswoman is recognizing several students for their community service awards.
Always inspiring to see young people engaged in their communities.
It is, and it sets a positive example for others.
Absolutely.
And then we hear from representatives in Mississippi, Arizona, Illinois, and Michigan, recognizing individuals for their contributions to local media, the anniversary of a school district, long mayoral service, and community work.
So much happening at the local level. It's
Yeah.
easy to forget about those everyday heroes.
That's right, and they're making a difference in their communities every day.
Exactly.
And finally, we have a hometown hero in Texas, a dedication to healthcare in Baltimore,
Oh, that's wonderful.
leadership at a local organization in Minnesota, a distinguished military career in Illinois,
Wow, what a range of achievements.
and the service of a senior pastor in New York,
That's quite a list.
a true reflection of the breadth of human experience. Now, let's dive into some legislative action and discussions.
Okay, sounds good.
A significant portion of record was dedicated to issues affecting veterans.
As it often is.
There's generally broad agreement on the importance of supporting veterans,
Absolutely.
but the specifics of how to do that,
That's where the debate comes in.
that's where the debate comes in. The House passed a bill called H.R. 983, the Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserves Tuition Fairness Act of 2025.
Okay.
This aims to give veterans using educational benefits under Title X in-state tuition rates at public colleges.
Sounds like a good thing.
It's specifically for members of the selected reserves,
Okay.
ensuring that they have the same access to education as other veterans, regardless of their official state of residence.
Makes sense.
But there were questions raised about the long-term financial stability of the GI Bill program itself and the quality of education at the institutions involved.
Right. You can't just expand benefits without thinking about the bigger picture.
Exactly. So while the intent is there are some systemic issues to consider.
Always a balancing act.
Another bill passed, H.R. 586, the Vietnam Veterans Liver Fluke Cancer Study Act.
Okay.
This one mandates a study on the prevalence of a specific type of bile duct cancer, cholangiocarcinoma, in Vietnam veterans.
Is there a reason why they're focusing on this particular cancer?
Yeah, there's concern that the VA hasn't adequately tracked it,
Really?
despite evidence suggesting a higher risk for these veterans,
I see.
possibly linked to a parasite exposure during their service.
That makes sense.
So this is about addressing a potential health consequence related to military service.
And trying to understand the scope of the issue.
But, and this is a recurring theme, there were discussions about how to pay for this study.
Right. Everything comes down to funding.
The proposal on the table involved diverting pension payments from some of the oldest and most vulnerable veterans.
It sounds controversial.
Understandably, there were objections.
Yeah.
Arguments that these pensions are a vital safety net
Right.
that shouldn't be used to offset other costs.
Especially when the VA is facing so many pressures.
Exactly. So it highlights that constant challenge in Congress,
Mm.
balancing competing priorities, and deciding who ultimately bears the cost.
It's never an easy decision.
The House also passed H.R. 1039, the Clear Communication for Veterans Claims Act.
Clear communication. That's always a good thing.
This one aims to simplify the often confusing language in the letters the VA sends to veterans about their benefits claims.
It's so important that veterans can understand their benefits.
Absolutely.
It can be a really complicated process.
Exactly. So the idea is to bring in an outside research center to help make these communications clearer, easier to understand.
Streamlining the process.
Exactly. Reduce confusion, make it easier for veterans to get the support they need.
Sounds like a win-win.
But guess what? The proposed funding source was the same, diverting pension payments.
There's that debate again.
And this sparked more objections about protecting those pensions.
It's a tough situation. You want to support veterans, but you also have to be fiscally responsible.
Absolutely. Now, shifting to the VA home loan program,
Okay.
there was a lot of discussion around a proposed bill, the Foreclosure Assistance Immediately Reinstated Act, or FAIR Act.
Okay.
This aims to revive a program that helps veterans facing foreclosure.
That sounds important.
There's concern that the VA was ending this support without adequate alternatives.
Oh, I see.
And the VA home loan program has been so crucial for veteran homeownership for decades.
It has.
So this is really about ensuring that veterans continue to have that safety net.
Absolutely. Home ownership is such a big part of the American dream.
It is. Now, on a more positive note, we also saw the passage of two bills with unanimous support. H.R. 877, the Deliver for Veterans Act.
Okay.
This expands the VA's authority to provide adapted vehicles to certain disabled veterans and cover delivery costs.
That's great.
And H.R. 1333, the Protecting Firefighters and Paramedics from Cancer Act,
Okay.
aimed at better supporting first responders facing higher cancer risks.
Unanimous support. That's always encouraging to see.
It is. It shows that even in a divided Congress, there are issues where everyone can come together.
Common ground.
Now let's turn our attention to education.
Okay.
There was quite a bit of discussion around the IDEA Full Funding Act.
IDEA, that's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I remember learning about that in my education classes.
IDEA promised federal funding for special education up to 40%, but that level has never been met.
That's a big gap.
And this act aims to gradually increase funding to reach that target.
It sounds like a good idea, but I imagine it's a complex issue.
It is. Supporters argue that it's not just good policy, but a moral imperative to provide those resources to schools.
Support students with disabilities and their families.
And they raise concerns about the strain that underfunding places on schools and families.
I can imagine.
Now, on a different note, within education and social programs, there were some major concerns raised about potential reductions to Medicaid funding.
Medicaid, that's a big one.
The worry is that these cuts could have a ripple effect on seniors, people with disabilities, children, and even rural healthcare systems.
Rural healthcare is already facing so many challenges.
It is. And Medicaid is often a lifeline for those communities.
Makes you wonder what the long-term consequences would be.
They also talked about the potential for increased local property taxes or cuts to other essential services to make up for the shortfall.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect.
Now, another hot topic we saw debated was diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
DEI, that's been in the news a lot lately.
It has, in both education and federal agencies.
Right.
Some voices were very strongly against DEI,
Okay.
viewing it as inherently divisive.
Interesting.
They argued that it focuses on identity rather than merit,
I see.
and they even referenced past actions to eliminate these types of programs.
It's a complex issue with a lot of history.
But then others were passionately defending DEI,
Okay.
arguing that it's crucial for creating inclusive environments
Right.
and ensuring that the contributions of all Americans are recognized.
So it's about fairness and opportunity.
It really gets to the heart of some fundamental disagreements about what those concepts mean.
I can see that.
And then this conversation brought in to include concerns about the Department of Education itself.
Whoa.
Some were worried about potential dismantling
Okay.
and the negative effects that could have on vulnerable students, underserved communities.
That's a big concern.
They highlighted the department's role in civil rights protection, teacher support, tracking academic progress, and even managing student loans.
That's a wide range of responsibilities.
It is.
And it affects so many people.
It does. Now, over in the Senate, we saw Resolution 158 submitted. This expressed the sentiment that paraprofessionals and education support staff deserve fair compensation, benefits, and good working conditions.
Those support staff are so essential to a well-functioning school.
Absolutely. And Resolution 161, supporting the designation of a week as National Assistant Principals Week, was referred to committee.
Okay.
These resolutions, while not laws themselves, can signal areas of focus and support.
Like a way to raise awareness.
Exactly. Now, let's shift gears once again, this time to economic issues and trade.
Right.
There was some strong criticism directed at what was termed disastrous Maganomics, specifically citing former President Trump's tariff policies.
Tariffs have been a big topic of debate.
And the potential for those policies to increase costs for American families and destabilize markets.
That's all about the potential impact on the economy.
Exactly.
And people have different opinions about how to achieve economic stability.
They even reference the stock market's performance as evidence.
It's always interesting to see how those economic indicators are used in these arguments.
It is. Now, on the other side, there were arguments in favor of extending the 2017 tax relief,
Okay.
claiming it would prevent tax increases for most families and support small businesses.
Tax policy, another perennial debate.
They also raised concerns about the national debt and the need for fiscal responsibility,
Right.
although their proposed solutions differ significantly.
It's always fascinating to see how different ideologies approach these complex issues.
Absolutely. Now, another topic that came up was work requirements for federal assistance programs. Proponents pointed to the 1996 welfare reform as a successful example of encouraging self-sufficiency.
Welfare reform, that was a major policy shift.
It was.
And it's still debated today.
Is.
Some argue that it was successful.
Right.
Others say that it had negative consequences.
And then there were concerns raised about adjustments made to those requirements during the Obama administration.
It's all about finding the right balance between providing support and promoting independence.
Exactly. Now, we also saw a message from the president about a national emergency related to trade,
Right.
citing unfair practices like unequal tariffs and non-tariff barriers.
Trade wars, those can get complicated.
And following this, there was mention of an executive order revoking duty-free status for low-value goods from China.
So trade is a high priority right now.
It seems to be, both from an economic and a national security perspective.
I see.
Finally, among other notable items, we saw authorization for the use of the Capitol grounds for the National Peace Officers Memorial Service.
That's a solemn and important event. A resolution honoring the life of former Representative Mia Love.
Okay.
A bipartisan disapproval of a Department of Energy rule. Agreement on a Senate budget resolution for fiscal year 2025.
Wow, so much going on.
The reappointment of Dr. Barbara Simons to the Election Assistance Commission. Support for National Safe Digging Month. Ongoing consideration of executive nominations.
That's a lot.
And a resolution honoring a former senator from Louisiana.
The Congressional Record really is a microcosm of what's happening in our country.
It is. So looking back at all of this, where did we see those moments of bipartisanship? And where were the divisions the most stark?
Well, the most obvious area of bipartisan support was around honoring veterans, especially with those bills on adapted vehicles and support for first responders.
Right.
And the authorization for the Peace Officers Memorial Service. The tribute to former Representative Mia Love also seemed to be a moment of unity.
I agree.
However, when it came to funding mechanisms for veterans initiatives,
Yes.
that's where the partisan lines became more apparent. The disagreements on DEI and economic policy also highlighted those divisions.
They did. And even on issues where there was initial bipartisan consensus, like welfare reform,
Right.
later disagreements on implementation show how those dynamics can shift over time.
It's a reminder that reaching agreement is just the first step.
Exactly.
Then you have the unanimous consent on certain resolutions and nominations, showing that cooperation can still happen.
Even in a polarized environment.
So as we've seen, even a single day in the Congressional Record offers a remarkable glimpse into the priorities and the debates shaping our country.
Absolutely.
From those local acknowledgments to those complex issues around veterans, education, and the economy, Congress is a constant hub of activity.
It really is.
And we hope this deep dive has provided you with a clearer picture, some valuable context.
I hope so.
What stood out to you as the most significant aspect of this overview?
Good question.
What further questions do you have about these legislative efforts or the broader trends we've discussed?
Yeah, what are you thinking about now?
This is really just a starting point for understanding those forces at work in Washington.
It is.
And we encourage you to explore those areas that piqued your interest further.
Definitely.
The Congressional Record itself is a public resource full of information for those who want to delve deeper.
It's all there for you to explore.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
And to leave you with one final thought. Think about how your own community and the people you know might be affected by the issues we've discussed today, from support for veterans to education funding and economic policies. Staying informed about these debates and understanding their potential impact is a crucial part of being an engaged citizen. What steps can you take to learn more about the issues that matter most to you and to make your voice heard?
It's up to all of us to stay engaged.